Hello everyone and welcome to another video of the Sky channel. So in this video we are going to be talking about the top 5 epic revivers for you to use in Arena. Now when we say top 5 epic revivers for Arena, it basically means that they have reviving capabilities and are very good to use in Arena as well. And the first one that we're going to talk about is the Cardinal. And if you take a look at its skill 3, Redemption revives all dead allies and heals them by 25% of their maximum HP, as well as boosting their turn meter to the maximum. So not only does it bring them all back, it also boosts their turn meter to the maximum, so they should be attacking fairly soon. Now it does have a cooldown of 7 turns, but as you level up that skill further, you can reduce it down to 5. Now whenever there's reviving of all dead allies, it is actually quite amazing because you get everyone back instead of having to revive one, then waiting a lot of turns and then reviving the others. So a really good revive. But what about its other skills? And if you go to skill number 2, heals a target ally by 30% of their maximum HP and places a 60% increased defense buff for 2 turns. And as you can see, as you level it up further, you end up increasing the heals and then you also reduce the cooldown, which was initially 4 turns, but you can bring it down to 3. So reviving the allies and then also healing them and increasing defense, enabling them to live a little bit longer. Finally, it's skill number 1, which is the normal attack. Attacks one enemy and has a 10% chance of placing a 5% poison debuff for 2 turns. That damage is based on attack, and you can see that as you level it up further, you increase the damage by a bit and also increase the chance of assigning that poison debuff. Overall, the good thing about Cardinal is that it can revive all the allies, boost their turn meters, and also heal them and give them extra defense, making Cardinal quite effective in bringing your heroes back to life and also helping them live a little bit longer. Next up, the Dawncaller Sabitha. And its revival skill is the Shimmer of Life, which is skill number 3, revives an ally with 25% of its HP and 100% of the turn meter. So this one only revives one ally. That being said, it also places a block damage buff on that ally for 2 turns. And if you know about block damage, the cool thing is that it blocks all sorts of damage on that champion. So for 2 turns, that champion is basically safe from all sorts of damage that the enemies might be doing. So even though it's a single ally and it's only 25% of its HP that's revived, the block damage buff sort of gives it the opportunity to last a little bit longer. The cooldown is 6 turns, but as you level it up further, you can bring it down to 4. Now going to skill number 2, and you can see it's pretty cool. It allows Sabitha to place a 60% increased defense buff and a 50% increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns, allowing all your champions to survive a little bit longer because of the extra defense and also do a lot more damage because of the increased attack. Cooldown 5 turns, but as you level it up further, you can bring it down to 3. And then skill number 1, the normal attack, attacks an enemy and then heals the ally with the lowest HP by 10% of this champion's maximum HP. And if Sabitha's health is much higher than the allied champion, the overall healing is probably going to be much more than 10% of that champion's maximum HP. The damage is based on attack, and as you can see, you level it further, you get an extra damage for this skill. Now it does have a passive ability as well, and whenever this champion revives an ally, decreases the cooldown of one of this champion's skills by 1 turn. What that means is that when you actually release that revive, you're either going to be decreasing the cooldown of the revive itself, which we brought down to 4 turns if you max it out, or you decrease the cooldown of the increased defense and increased attack buff, which we brought down to 3 turns after leveling it up. So after reviving, you have a chance of reducing the cooldown of either of these 2 skills. So that's Sabitha. So while it is a little bit limited in the fact that it can only revive one ally, the block damage buff is quite effective, as well as its ability of increasing defense and increasing attack, enhancing the survival and offensive abilities of the champions, while also healing them using skill 1. The passive ability also helps because it reduces the cooldowns of the 2 skills that are quite helpful. So that's Sabatha, and now let's go to the next champion in our top 5, and that is Gorgurov. I'm sure you've seen this champion in the arena because it is one champion that seems to be quite used by a lot of people, even in the higher tiers. So what makes this champion so effective? Well, let's start talking about its healing skill, and that is that it revives any dead allies with 25% HP. So it's not a single revive, it revives all of them. And then it heals all allies by 25%. And this heal, of course, can happen even if there are no dead allies, meaning that you can use this skill even if all of your champions are alive, just to heal them. The best thing is, as you level up the skill, you increase this healing amount by 20%. And at level 5, you actually reduce the cooldown from 6 turns to 5. So it revives all dead champions with 25% HP, and then there's a nice amount of healing based on the level of your skill, which in a way enables you to have your champions at a fairly high health. It doesn't boost anyone's turn meters, but that's fine because it's already doing so much. Skill number 2, and this one is very interesting as well, fills the turn meters of all of our allies by 15% and then places a 50% increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns. So putting you in a good position where your allied champions have a higher chance of releasing next and also increasing their attack, so when they do release their skills, they do a lot more damage. The cooldown is 4 turns, and once you level it up, it goes down to 3 turns. Finally, skill number 1, the normal attack attacks one enemy and has a 50% chance of removing one random buff from them, which is interesting as well. The damage is based on attack, and you can see as you level it up further, you increase your damage and also increase the chance of removing that buff from the enemy. So that's what makes Gorgurov so effective. It revives all allies, heals them, and the other skill increases their turn meters and gives them an extra attack buff, and has the opportunity to remove buffs from the enemies. In other words, Gorgurov has the ability to do a lot of things that you really need in your team. The next one is an amazing champion, and that is Rector Drath. It remains to be one of the very effective champions to use in Arena, especially in the early game, but it does also maintain some effectiveness even in late game. Let's start with its revival skill. You can see it revives a single ally with 60% HP and fills their turn meters by 60%. So it is a single ally, the revival health is fairly decent, 60%, and it also increases their turn meters, so a higher chance of them being able to attack next, and then it also places a perfect wheel buff on them. Now for those of you who don't know, perfect wheel sort of protects the ally, as the enemies cannot target that ally using a single target attack as long as you have another ally that doesn't have a perfect wheel. So in a way, if this champion is the only one that has a perfect wheel, it's protected from single target attacks. However, if the enemy does release an attack that targets multiple units, the champion with perfect wheel can still get attacked. However, the damage is reduced by 15%. Now, if all of your allied champions are under perfect wheel, then they can also be targeted by single target attacks. Now, perfect wheel with Rected Wrath is quite interesting, as we just talked about, right? You cannot be targeted by single target attacks as long as there is another champion that does not have the perfect wheel. It reduces incoming damage by 15% if the enemy uses area effect attacks. But if you go to Rected Wrath's passive ability, whenever an ally under perfect wheel gets a turn, heals them by 10% of their maximum HP. So it's also adding a little bit of healing to the mix because of the passive ability. Additionally, if you are under perfect wheel, you get 50 res, meaning you might be able to resist some of the debuffs that the enemies might be trying to place at you. So quite effective. There's a good healing. You get that turn meter increase. You get the perfect wheel, which helps you in so many different ways, including res, including healing, and including protection from single target attacks, as well as damage reduction whenever an enemy tries to do an area effect damage. Now the cooldown is 6 turns, but as you level it up further, you can reduce it to 4 turns. Next up, skill number 2. Heals all allies by 20% of this champion's maximum HP, and that is Rector Drath's maximum HP. So as you can imagine, it can be a lot more than 20%, especially if you have Rector Drath with a very high maximum HP. After healing, it also places a perfect wheel buff for 2 turns on all allies with full HP. So after you heal them by this amount, if they reach max HP, they get a perfect wheel. If they don't reach maximum HP, they get a 15% continuous heal buff for 1 turn instead. Of course, the perfect perfect wheel is better, as we just talked about. It actually heals them as well as protecting them in so many different ways. So the hope is they do get maximum HP so they can get the perfect wheel for 2 turns instead of the continuous heal for 1. The cooldown is 5 turns, but it can be reduced to 4 once you get this to level 5. Of course, leveling it up also increases the amount of healing that it provides by a significant amount. So if you have a very high HP Rector Drath, the heal can be quite significant to a point where I feel like in my Rector Drath, it generally enables most of my champions to go back to 100% HP. Then skill number 1, which is the normal attack, attacks one enemy and has a 35% chance of placing a 50% decrease attack debuff for 2 turns. Now this skill is generally good for debuffing the enemies. So if you have a very big damage dealer opponent, you want to target them with this attack so you can give them a decrease attack debuff and hence allowing all your champions to live a little bit longer. As you level up the skill further, you increase the damage by a bit, but the best part of course is the fact that you can actually increase the chance of placing the decrease attack debuff on the enemies. And that's Rected Drath. It can revive champions, but it can also enable them to live a lot longer because of its amazing healing abilities. Finally, the last one that we're going to talk about is Ursula the Mourner. Very effective reviver and very good for arena as well. Let's start with its revival skill. Revives all dead allies with 75% HP, which is quite high as you know, and then fills their turn meters by 50%, so hopefully they can release their skills very soon, and then also places a 60% increased defense buff on them and a 25% strengthen buff for 3 turns, not 2. We're talking 3. So I want everyone to process this for a minute. Revives all allies, not one, all of them, with 75% HP, which is a very high amount of HP compared to many of the ones that we've talked about before. This by itself would have been amazing, right? You bring all of them back with 75% HP, but then there's also the filling of the turn meter by 50% and placing 60% increased defense, allowing them to live a little bit longer, and also a 25% strengthen buff. And these 2 buffs last 3 turns, which usually isn't the case. A lot of times you see 2 turns, this is 3. Strengthen reduces the value of the damage that your champions receive by 25%. You already have the increased defense, reducing damage. Now you have the strengthen buff, which reduces damage further. Now you could use this skill even when all your champions are alive, just to give them increased defense and strengthen buffs if you don't believe your champions are going to be dying in the next 5 to 6 turns. So the cooldown is 6 turns, but you can bring it down to 5 if you increase the level of this skill. Very powerful skill, and this by itself makes Ursula such an amazing champion. But let's go to skill number 2, Waves of Grief. Attacks all enemies, not just one, each and every single enemy, and has a 75% chance of placing a 50% decrease attack debuff for 2 turns on the enemy champions. So it's attacking them all, but the best part is it's giving a 50% decrease attack debuff to them. So your champions are going to be living much longer because the enemies are going to be able to do much less damage. But it doesn't end there. It also places a 50% increase attack buff on all of your champions for 2 turns as well. So increasing your own damage and decreasing the enemy's damage. And it's targeting all the enemies, and it's also targeting all of your champions for the buffs. In other words, this is another very amazing skill, right? Makes you stronger and makes the enemy weaker. As you can see, as you level the skill further, you can increase the damage you do, but also increases the chance of placing the debuff on the enemies and also reduces the cooldown from 4 turns to 3. Both of these skills makes Ursula so dangerous in the arena. Finally, skill number 1, the normal attack. Attacks one enemy and has a 40% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 10%. So some damage and then also reducing their turn meters, so hopefully they don't get to go next. An effective use of this would be to target a very powerful champion that the enemy has that might be about to release a very powerful skill. As you level up the skill further, you can see an increase in damage, and then of course the best part, increasing the chance of reducing their turn meters. And that's what makes Ursula one of the best epic revivers to be using in the arena. And that covers our top 5 list. Before you go, I want you to know that you can save a lot of money in Raid Shadow Legends. All you need to do is follow the video that I'm linking in the description of this video, or click the button that's going to appear at the top of the screen that'll take you to that video. We're talking 10 to 35% cashbacks whenever you make in-game purchases in Raid Shadow Legends. Whether you're trying to buy some of those energy refills or legendary skill tombs, the cashback bonuses, they will pile up and you'll be able to get stuff much cheaper. If you're interested, you can join our Discord and you can ask me there and I can guide you through the process personally as well. A lot of people are already taking advantage of this and they are ever grateful, and I hope you will join in too, because not only will you be saving a lot of money in the long run, you'll also be helping our channel. Thank you so much and I hope to see you in the next one.